What would you do if the happiest day of your life became the stage for a betrayal you could never forgive? For me, that day was my wedding, a moment I had dreamed of since I was a little girl twirling in my mother's veil. I'm Emily, and this is the story of how my brother-in-law, Mark, turned my fairy tale into a nightmare one that would haunt me forever. The morning of my wedding dawned bright and warm, the kind of day that feels like a gift from the universe. I stood in front of the mirror, my white gown shimmering like a promise. My fiancé, David, was everything I'd ever wanted, kind, steady, with a laugh that could melt any worry. We'd planned every detail of this day. The garden venue draped in roses, the string quartet, the vows we'd written in secret. My heart swelled with anticipation, but there was a flicker of unease I couldn't shake. Mark, David's older brother, had always been a wild card, charming but reckless, the kind of man who could light up a room or burn it down. Mark was David's best man, a role I'd questioned but never challenged. David adored his brother, despite Mark's history of bad decisions, failed businesses, broken relationships, and a knack for stirring trouble. "He's family," David would say, his eyes soft with loyalty. I nodded, swallowing my doubts, because I loved David too much to let Mark's shadow dim our light. But as I adjusted my veil, a knot tightened in my stomach. Mark had been oddly quiet in the weeks leading up to the wedding, his usual bravado replaced by sly glances and cryptic comments. I pushed the thought away. Today was about love, not suspicion. The ceremony was perfect. David's eyes glistened as I walked down the aisle, and our vows drew tears from the guests. The garden glowed under the late afternoon sun, and for a moment, everything felt right. We moved to the reception, a tinted affair filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and the hum of celebration. I was floating, drunk on joy, when Mark stood to give his best man speech. The crowd hushed, and David squeezed my hand, a proud smile on his face. I braced myself, expecting Mark's usual mix of humor and edge. But what came next shattered everything. Mark raised his glass, his grin sharp as a blade. To David and Emily, he began, his voice smooth but laced with something darker. A couple so perfect, it's almost hard to believe. The room chuckled, but my smile faltered. He went on, weaving a story about David's loyalty, his goodness. Then his tone shifted. But every love story has its secrets, doesn't it? My heart stopped. He pulled out his phone, and with a tap, a photo appeared on the projector screen behind him, a grainy image of me. Years ago, in a moment I'd buried deep. It was me at 22, in a bar, kissing a man who wasn't David. The room gasped. My face burned, and David's hand slipped from mine. The photo was from a reckless night in college, long before I met David, a mistake I'd never share because it didn't define me. But Mark wasn't done. "I found this while digging through some old files," he said, his voice dripping with mock innocence. "Thought it was only fair to share, for transparency." The crowd murmured, eyes darting between me and David. I wanted to scream, to explain, but my voice was trapped in my throat. David's face was unreadable, a mix of shock and hurt. I reached for him, but he pulled away, standing to face Mark. "What the hell are you doing?" he hissed. Mark shrugged, unfazed. "Just keeping it real, brother. She's not as perfect as you think." The room spun. Guests whispered, some leaving their seats. My sister, Claire, rushed to my side, her eyes blazing. "This is your wedding, Em. Don't let him ruin it." But the damage was done. The joy of the day was gone, replaced by a suffocating weight. Then came the twist I never saw coming. As Mark basked in the chaos, a woman stood up from the back of the tent, Lila, a friend of David's from college, someone I'd only met once. She was trembling, her face pale but determined. "Mark, you're a liar," she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. All eyes turned to her. That photo, he didn't find it by accident. He's been holding on to it for years, waiting for this moment. The room fell silent. Lila stepped forward, her hands clenched. Mark tried to blackmail me with old photos too, years ago, to ruin my engagement. He's not protecting David's jealous of him. Always has been. The revelation hit like a thunderclap. Lila explained how Mark had always resented David's success, his happiness, his ability to rise above their dysfunctional family. The photo of me wasn't a random find. Mark had dug through old social media, contacted mutual friends, and pieced together a moment from my past to weaponize it. He'd planned this, not to keep it real, but to tear us apart. David's jaw tightened, his eyes locked on his brother. "Is this true?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. Mark's smirk faltered, but he didn't deny it. The silence was his confession. The reception unraveled. Some guests tried to restart the party, but the air was thick with tension. David took my hand, pulling me outside to the garden. "Why didn't you tell me about the photo?" he asked, his voice soft but raw. Tears streamed down my face as I explained Nita's stupid, drunken moment from a decade ago, meaningless in the face of our love. I told him how Mark's betrayal cut deeper than the embarrassment, how his brother's need to destroy us revealed a darkness I couldn't ignore. David listened, his face softening. "I believe you," he said finally, "and I'm done with him." We returned to the tent, hand in hand, but the night was changed. Mark was gone, slipped away like a coward. Lila found me later, apologizing for not warning me sooner. She'd only come to the wedding to support David, not expecting Mark's cruelty to resurface. Her courage gave me strength, a reminder that truth could still shine through betrayal. The guests rallied around us, and we danced, but the shadow lingered. In the weeks that followed, David cut ties with Mark. It wasn't easy. Family ties are stubborn, and David grieved the brother he thought he knew. But he chose me, chose us. We rebuilt, piece by piece, stronger for it. Mark sent a half-hearted apology via text, but I deleted it without responding. His actions weren't just a moment of spite. They were a calculated strike against our happiness, rooted in his own bitterness. I could forgive a mistake, but not a heart so intent on harm. Looking back, I see the value of that day, painful as it was. It taught me that love isn't just vows and roses. It's standing together when someone tries to tear you apart. It's the courage of unexpected allies like Lila, who remind us that truth can mend what deceit breaks. And it's the strength to let go of those who choose destruction over love. My wedding day wasn't the fairy tale I dreamed of, but it was the day I learned what love and betrayal truly mean. Mark's actions made me despise him, not just for what he did, but for what he revealed about himself. And in that revelation, I found a deeper love with David, one forged in fire, unbreakable.